the whole length of the field, and they are in the lead. A month ago, people were saying he was out of form. Well, there's his answer.
Is this true then? Because obviously Wikipedia got to give it with a pinch of salt. You did fencing at school.
Yes, I did. Fencing was my first sport that I really got into and started to see improvement and to have the goals in. I remember because people may remember I used to wear a red gold every game I played of rugby, whether it's union or league. If you go look at it's a picture or footage of me, I'll have had one red, gold and green sweatband, superstition, a big sporting thing, and one red, white and blue sweatband. And that comes from fencing because I've got skinny wrists. I used to wear 2 Rastafarian sweatbands. And then because obviously in fencing, there's a lot of sweat and you just take off and wipe my brow and everything. And I remember that I went to fight in France against some Frenchman who was meant to be so much better than me. And I beat this Frenchman in a final. And I was almost thinking about going to take fencing seriously, really seriously. But then after I fought this Frenchman, he just couldn't believe that I'd beaten him. And he insisted that, because he had 2 French sweatbands, so he insisted that we swap sweatbands. So from that day on, I'd always worn this French sweatband and one Rastafarian sweatband. And that's just how I really just approached it. It just taught me something that, about success and about driving and striving to do things. But then as I decided, I could have carried on that course, but I decided to pivot into rugby because I just thought to myself, even if I do become like the greatest fencer, how's that going to help me? You can't, you can't become a professional. Because I had this thing that I wanted to become a professional sportsman. I thought, I can't become a professional fencer. I thought that's not what happened. Just thankfully that the school that I went to, Wolverton Hall, which is a very great school, incredible school, set up after the Second World War to give boys from in the London area, access to a public school education. It was a grammar school. It had a big rugby tradition, and rugby obviously also was amateur at the time, as I mentioned earlier. And that's why I did cricket as well. So cricket was the first sport that I sort of tried to, play after school professionally. The summer of '85, I left school and I went down to Essex. A guy called Ray East, who was a spin bowler for Essex, took me down to Essex, and I had a summer there. Roomed and played with Nasser Hussain, who was a future England captain and opening batsman, and I used to bowl in the nets with a guy called John Lever, who was another left-arm bowler. I famously bowled Graham Gooch out, who was an England Test opening batsman, in the nets. Just for some reason, my heart wasn't in it. Didn't have a particularly great debut playing for Essex Seconds. Didn't get any wickets and didn't get any runs. And it was 3 days of like, oh God, I can't be doing this for the rest of my life. So I thought, even if rugby is amateur, I'd rather go and do that, play for England, and hopefully somebody will give me a job. That was my life's plan. I wasn't too bright educationally. I suffered from a bit of dyslexia. I had problems with learning, and it was tough for me. I only got 4 O levels, GCSEs now as they are. I spent the whole year retaking 4 more GCSEs so I could get 8. Then I could go to do. Sorry, my cat is supposed to be part of the podcast, to do 8, so I could do my A levels, and then that happened. I only got 1 A level. So academia was tough for me, but I always knew that rugby would play a big part of my future, and I wasn't wrong.
Do you believe, obviously we haven't mentioned your Nigerian parents, do you think that's where your work ethic, if we use a stereotype of the African work ethic, do you think that's where it comes from for you?
Yeah, I think, my parents are all learned people, came over to this country. My dad got called to the bar, studied law. My mother was a school teacher. I always joke that I'm the only person in my family without a degree. But then I caveat that with, I'm the only one with an MBE. So go figure. There's 4 of them, all with degrees, but none of them got an MBE between them. But yes, that's the way, life is, you have to prosper. Don't take it too seriously. Go after what it is that you want to go after. Yes, my parents were hardworking, diligent. I'd say I definitely have to thank my brother for giving me that, that never say die, never give up attitude, as I was the runt of the litter. Both my sister and brother were far better sportsmen than I was, and used to regularly beat me down and beat me at races, and I could never beat my brother at anything, but I never gave up. So it gave me that that mentality that you just don't give up. As long as you don't give up, you're in the game. Because if you set a goal, one of 3 things can happen. And giving up is one of them. You can either give up, die, or succeed. Those are the only 3 things that can happen. So as long as you don't give up, you're always in the game. When you say die, that could be the game's over. The whistle's gone, game's gone, it's dead, isn't it? So that's why in a game, until they blow the whistle, never give up. And if you never give up, we've seen it just even recently. I remember watching a football match with my son, because sometimes in life you learn the same lessons over and over again. And then I think it was Man City played in Real Madrid, and it was about 87 minutes to go, and they're like 2 goals down. And my son said to me, "Oh, Dad, let's watch something else. This game's over." And I was like, "Oh, okay." And it turns out they won. And I was like, sometimes in life you still learn the same lessons over and over again, because 9 out of 10 times that probably was over. But that one time, which could be your time, so don't give up. That's why you should never give up, never take your eye off your focus, and just be thankful that you're in the game. As long as you're still fighting, and the ultimate game is life, isn't it? As long as we're still above ground, we're still in the game, regardless of what illness we're suffering from, what our finances are like. There's always something. As long as you're above ground, there's always something to be grateful for. There are people who are in whatever situation you're in life, there's someone in a worse off position that was going to succeed. You know what I mean? It's like people who think they're close to death, and then they might only have 3 days to live. But then there could be somebody who's got all the health and vitality, thinks they've got their whole life ahead of them. Go get hit by a bus. You've outlived that person already. You know what I mean? So we don't know how these things are going to play out. So it's just why you just got to be grateful and hang in there. And I always had that mentality for my brother. I remember a story playing, I think it was in the summer of 76. It was a very hot summer, anyone who's old enough to remember that summer. And I think the West Indies came over and were playing a test series against England. I just remember during the lunch break or the afternoon tea, I would go and bowl and play cricket against my brother. We didn't have PlayStations and all those kind of things to keep us busy back in the day. You had to make your own entertainment and stuff. So we went out, chopped up a piece of, we didn't even have a cricket bat. We used to just get a fence panel and just get a saw and cut a handle out and wrap some stuff around it. And that's a piece of wood. And that's how we used to make our bat. And then obviously a tennis ball for a ball. And I just remember I used to bowl them all day, and God, I just think to myself, I'm going to get this guy out. If it kills me, I'd be there, and I just knew that eventually, if I keep putting that ball on the line, eventually he's going to nick it, get an edge, and he's going to be out, and that's the kind of thing in life. You just keep turning up, eventually you win. And that's also developing your mentality as well as your skill. I mean, me bowling every day to him, you know what I mean? It meant that I would get better. And if he didn't bowl because he batted all the time, then he's not going to get better than me at bowling because I did it more. It's like I learned that the more you did something, the better you got. No matter how good or bad you are at something, the more you do it, you're going to get better at it. You're going to improve. And so if you compete against yourself and not look at, because people get put off track, because you as long as you're improving, if you're better than you were last week, that's got to be good enough for you. But people look over there and think, oh, he's really good. So then that distracts you again, takes your focus off. You're not focused on what you should be doing. That's your everyday practice. You give up, not realizing that maybe if you'd just carried on with it, you might end up being better than them. There's lots of different advantages. They might have been doing it longer than you. You know what I mean? It's like they call it, I don't know what the hour is, or how many. 10,000 hours it is, or whatever. You know what I mean? They might have done 8,000 of that 10,000. You might have only done 1,000, or you might have only done 600. So obviously they're going to be better than you, but you don't think of that they might be more physically adept than you are at. So maybe you haven't found your niche, you know what I mean? Maybe it's that you could try something different or do something different, but you know, you just got to focus on yourself. If what you're doing is what you love, just focus on yourself. You'll get better, you know, at it. And if you want to change and pivot and do something else, then yeah, you can do that. But sometimes in life, we let other people, as I say, take our focus on what it is that we're doing. Whereas we should just be getting better, you know, believe. That's why you got to believe in yourself, really. And even when no one else is believing in you. Because if you continue to work hard and show improvement, sooner or later, other people start to believe in you, isn't it? When you show them something, if you show them nothing, then no one's going to believe in you, only you. But I had a bit of a chip on my shoulder because I switched over quite early. I was only 21. I didn't, you know, I had a student cap. I played for the Barbarians at rugby union, but I wasn't a full international. So as I say, I had a chip on my shoulder and I had something to prove. And I was playing against all these guys, and you know, none of them have probably had the careers that I have had in league. But sometimes, as I say, it's not where you start in life, it's about where you finish. But the transition for me was, I wouldn't say easy, but it was seamless in the sense that, you know, I hit the ground running, and that was all down to having a particular mindset. You know, you have a mindset, you work out a strategy, you know your skills and your strengths and weaknesses, and that's, you know, the recipe for most people when they go into, you know, any sport. You know, it all starts with a mindset. You understand where you are, where you want to get to, what you have to do to get there, understand your niche, that's what you do best, and try and do it the best as you can. You know, you learn from everybody else. You learn, you know, you're an open book. You have to have the right personality. You have to be, you know, confident and humble. You have to be okay with being misunderstood. You know, I've had that throughout my career, and you know, when people use terms like, you know, he's ahead of his time or he's a bit different, no one who is going to be truly successful is not going to be looked at a little bit differently, you know, a bit freak, a bit ostracized, or whatever, however you want to call it, you know, especially if you're in a team sport, because you have to be a bit different. You've got to be if you're doing exactly what everyone else is doing, which is going to make them feel comfortable, then you're going to be the same as them. If you're going to be, you know, I learned early on, if you're going to do different stuff, you have to be different, you know what I mean? And accept that. And, you know, and be, as I say, be misunderstood. People thought I was arrogant. They thought I was this, they thought I was that. And even recently, you know, I'm not going to name names, but I was working with another rugby player, and, you know, he thought that I should have been a bit more humble about something. And I just thought to myself, God, he doesn't come from my experience, you know. I had no negativity towards that statement, but he just didn't understand me. He didn't understand, obviously, being a black man. He didn't understand coming from nothing. He didn't understand the fact that when you set out a plan, you know, if you go out and you score a great goal or you score a great try in a game and it just happens, you can be, you can go, yeah, you know, and it never happens again. You can be, you know, quite humble about it because it just happened. And you're like, yeah, I went out there, I played well, I'm in this team and I played well, that was it. But if you go out there and it took you, you know, your lifetime to get there, to struggle, you've been doubted, you never got the breaks that you thought you should get, you turn every negative in your life to an advantage, then someone's paid a lot of money to get you somewhere, then you said to yourself, I'm going to do this. You go out and consistently do that, and then you're still doubted, and then you go out onto the big stage and say, this is it, I'm going to do it, and then you actually do it. You're going to shout about that for the rest of your days. That's a different struggle. As I say, to do something once is great, but to do something like, you know, in the first 10 years, I played rugby league, I was a top try scorer 7 times. And the 3 other times were because I only played half a season and I had 2 injuries, you know? So this is not a thing that just happened. I made it happen. You know what I mean? I made it happen because of my mindset. I've written a book about, you know, scoring tries. That's how passionate I am about it. So when you're talking like that, and then you think to yourself, you've done incredible things that, don't get me wrong, you have to be humble, because especially in a team sport, I don't care if you're doing 99% of the work. If someone is doing 1%, you must value that person as they're doing the 99%, because without them, your 99% still doesn't get the job done. And that's the thing about being in a sport. You can be Ronaldo, you can be Pele, you can be Maradona, I don't care who you are, yeah? But you can't go out there by yourself and play and become great, yeah? But then you are still different because you're that 1%, you're still that guy that if you wasn't there, then maybe they don't win either, you know what I mean? I'm talking about, and if you're not there, then what you've done may have seemed impossible, you know? Everything's impossible until someone does it, you know? And in some, that's why I say that person's a once in a generation player, because, you know, if that person was alive, then maybe you would not have seen what that person's done, you know? If Carl Lewis wasn't around back then, or if Usain Bolt, imagine if Usain Bolt didn't exist, you know what I mean? How different would the world of athletics be? And when you get on that mindset, then it's like, you know, when you talk about with that passion, sometimes people can misconstrue that as being arrogant, but they just don't get it. It's like you have tried to achieve something which, if you hadn't achieved it, people would have thought was impossible. Yet again, you've done it, yeah? And that just comes from a mindset, that comes from work ethic, that comes from people give it lots of different names, don't they? The Mamba mentality, being in the zone. Michael Jordan, isn't it? Like that is, it's literally on that level. And when you're thinking like that, you know what I mean? Not a lot of people are going to think that, because you're giving your whole life to your craft, what it is that you're doing. And so, and in the face of negativity, you only give out positivity. I mean, that's the only way to get ahead, because otherwise you get caught, you know, if I get caught up with negativity in that match you're talking about, then all I'll be thinking about is getting revenge on those guys. If I spent my time getting revenge on the guys and trying to punch them, they've done their job, isn't it? Because that's what people do. They kick you in a foot match. Why? To get you off your game. They punch you in the face on a rugby match. Why? To get you off your game, because some people don't have the right personalities, and they know that if they punch that guy, he's going to punch him back and he gets sent off. Imagine if the referee didn't see me get headbutted and then I headbutt, retaliate, and he sees me, I get sent off. That's it, I'm banned. I miss a game. I don't end up, I was so mindful that if I get caught up in that, it's taking my focus off what I'm doing.
Well, I can attest to that. I think my mum obviously taught me from very young to, generally speaking, if you retaliate, you're the one that's going to get caught. No matter what the severity of the other person had done, you're going to feel the consequences. But I think your legacy, Martin, is, I think, outside of rugby league, of a lot of people that maybe not know it from, you know, the grassroots of Lancashire or Yorkshire, like the Harp. I won't discount Cumbria, because they'll probably get annoyed if I didn't mention them as well. But outside of rugby league, you just for, say, the modern sense of, you know, there's this notion of people haven't got attention spans, of watching you scoring tries, people probably could pinpoint you out in the street. Oh, that's Martin Offiah. That's the person from the videos. But I think that's your legacy. Now in the 21st century, of that, is you are one of those statesperson has kind of elevated the game out of its how would I describe it? It's hotbed of being on the M62. It's